As you might expect, the rules at the Elan school were immense, exerting nearly totalitarian control over everything that happens.
The Moonies
Joe
was an
Ritchie's set
interesting
of rules,
cult.
which he called guilt, was gargantuan and needlessly meticulous. As a student at Elan, you would be expected to refrain from doing the following: having any image, reading as a non-strength, not completing learning experiences, writing without permission, being sideways, looking at security zones.
I believe that being sideways is an antiquity term for being gay. I don't know.
Non-strength interacting,
People in the 70s spoke weird.
talking too loudly, talking too softly, looking at the opposite gender.
Jesus fuck, this is like that part in RoboCop 2 where they filled his brain with all these directives to control his behavior and he just went nuts.
Being attracted to someone, any physical contact, looking out windows,
What the fuck?
unauthorized drawing, not listening to higher ranks, pretending to sleep at night, thinking of running away, being in the bathroom for too long,
Jesus fuck, they controlled even what you thought, like quite literally.
wearing dark clothing, being manipulative, being lazy while working, listening to music.
That is a fucking oof. The biggest of oofs, being manipulative in the most manipulating environment known to man.
Talking too much, showering for more than 3 minutes, not talking enough, making facial reactions to orders, negative body language, pretending not to.
Jesus Christ, I would have been like beaten to death in this building, in this cult, like whatever the fuck. I would not have lasted like 5 minutes. I would not have lasted 5 minutes. They would have literally just taken me out behind the woodshed and put me down.
Have guilt, oversleeping, undersleeping, smiling, and the list goes on and on.
Jesus Christ, that's a list that would make like a North Korean prison guard go, all right, chill, man, fuck.
Clearly, these rules
Fucking
were
Jesus.
not designed to be followed, causing harsh penalizations to become commonplace. To help enforce these, individuals known as expediters were designated by the school to stand on watch with clipboards. Primarily, they were known to catch those that broke 3 rules.
Why are they filming this? If they know that everything they're doing in this place is unethical, fucked up, and pretty much illegal, why are they filming it?
To members of the opposite gender, looking at the opposite gender, and making prolonged eye contact with anyone else. Since
So that's so retarded! They penalize you for being gay, and then they put you in your adolescence in a situation where they're pretty much forcing you to become gay. What? What?
expediters too,
What the fucking fuck is wrong with this place?
with names and infractions at the risk of their own punishment. They frequently and unapologetically made assumptions and accusations that were a lie. As you'd expect, punishment varied pretty heavily at Elan, and not in a good way.
How the fuck was this place reacted to by the public, if ever this place got known to the public?
One example involved
Brandon
requiring
Salt
a
sees Confederate flag. Well, it was the 70s, and it was like all over stuff. Leonard Skinner used it on their music stuff. I mean,
group of students to
I
live
know that's a cheap ass excuse, but it's like this kid is. I'm not gonna fault him for a Confederate flag T-shirt in an environment like this, because the fucking T-shirt's like the least of his worries right now.
in a dumpster for over 2 weeks. The expediter watching them was tasked with ensuring compliance and preventing any attempt to escape. If their subordinates acted out, however, the expediter on duty would be forced to live in the dumpster with them. while
Good
being monitored by
lord,
yet
just
another
live in the
who was up to the
dumpster.
task.
What the fuck?
Another major tactic at Elan was humiliation. They figured that by breaking down their social barrier, forcing students into extreme embarrassment, they could drive them to a point of total compliance.
Jesus Christ.
Those who tried to escape were often labeled as a split risk, and their punishment for doing so
Like a cult run by Reddit daddy doms.
was confiscation of their shoelaces and the requirement to wear a bright yellow t-shirt and short pink shorts. The school figured that without laces, their shoes were effectively useless, in turn preventing any ability to move any faster than a walk.
Hurry your
more
toes
extreme
up in the
example of the
motherfuckers and
split-wrist
just beat it.
punishment is shown with this student. Instead of a t-shirt and shorts though, he was forced to wear a bright pink rabbit suit with cuffs around his legs. It's unclear if this is a repeat offender, but it raises the question as to how far Alon would actually go with this tactic.
Jesus Christ, imagine they do this to some kid whose dad is like a big Frank Castle kind of guy. He would turn that campus into like World Wars 3 through 7. And I wouldn't blame him. Holy shit.
Students that smiled out of place were punished by wearing dunce caps and reduced to work that the school calls shot down. These involved repetitious, dull tasks like mopping floors, scrubbing the insides of trash cans, and even cleaning toilets with just a single toothbrush for hours and hours on end.
Like the military back in the day.
Shot down, it's
cleaning your latrine with the fucking toothbrush
was required before you were able. And even then, an escort had to watch you while you were in there. This, on top of a myriad of other degrading punishments, like humiliating sign and diaper wearing. It's clear that Alon kept...
The last time kids were this obedient was Germany in 1943. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a steady supply of copies of Mein Kampf on this campus. It wouldn't surprise me in the fucking least.
An iron grip
that would not surprise me in the fucking least.
On their daily operations. Their daily operations that took up most of the daily schedule, and those that were deceptively named by the Alon school themselves.
What are they doing?
Their treatment.
How is this helping people?
But
Tantric meditation.
All of these punishments are relatively tame compared to what we're about to talk about.
Oh, great.
Let's just say, if you pissed off a staff member, they could start something called a general meeting on you. And trust me, you wouldn't want one. There seemed to be no standard for them. They would just happen at random, multiple times each day. If staff were annoyed or felt like targeting a specific student for some reason, they could call a general meeting at any time. Once these words were uttered, everyone in the building would be required to gather in front of the student in whichever room they were in. "Get your feelings off," the administrator screams. And following this, each student in the room would begin screaming at and berating
that's psychological torture, dude.
And obscenities for nearly an hour
That's
long.
fucking psychological torture.
No matter how much the student pled for everyone to stop, no matter how much they broke down, no matter how much they cried, general meetings would not end until the admin said so. And when it finally did, the victim would lie there, often crying and exhausted at the relentless abuse that they'd just endured.
Fuck.
It's clear that general meetings aren't designed to reprimand. They're designed to completely break each and every student that's the subject of one. And with this, we can effectively put the points together that Alon was doing nothing more than running an operation that commanded total compliance. Any self-thought or sliver of independence that students thought they had was gone.
The thing is, military training is rough as fuck, but it doesn't do this. It breaks... How do I put it? It breaks the... It breaks the being a bitch part of your personality completely. It builds that into something a lot more constructive. This just breaks every part of your being.
Merely reduced to weapons.
There's nothing constructive about it.
That, at a moment's notice, could just as easily be used against them. "7 p.m.
Pretty much, it does like an ego death, yeah.
Contrary to its focus
in the worst possible way, though.
School time within Alon was secondhand to the students' treatment. Typically, the time frame for learning was 7 to 11 p.m., but sometimes could run longer.
What the fuck do you even learn in a shithole like this?
There were no extracurriculars, no physical education, no projects, no legitimate exams, nothing. Instead, students were required...
So you waste your teen years in this place and you don't even come out of it with a degree, like a diploma or anything? What the fuck? What a waste. Like $50,000 to turn your kid into potentially a serial killer and they don't even get a diploma.
To grade themselves on work that they were self-assigned with absolutely no direction. The structure of class typically involved a staff member supervising a room full of children. Each night of learning involved completing work out of freshman-level textbooks, which, unsurprisingly for a group of teenagers, would be immensely uneventful. Given that class time was after a long day full of verbal abuse, monotonous tasks, and a hierarchy system that does nothing but suffocate the lower classes, students dozing off and losing track of their work was expected. Curiously, school time too was regarded as a privilege at Elan. Joe Ritchie has gone on record to state that the class
is this guy still alive?
Was designed this way on purpose.
I hope to Christ he's not.
Allegedly, he believed students were easier to control while sleep deprived and utilized even this as a medium to work against them.
Yeah, that's another cult thing, is sleep deprivation. These kids must have been suffering the effects that you see in people that get put in solitary confinement for extended periods of time.
By 11 p.m., if a student makes it,
they must have had a lot of hallucination problems.
School hours then draw to a close. They're quickly released from class and escorted to their dorms, which were often in the form of uncomfortable, impersonal, military-style bunk beds. Sleep was known to be difficult, as designated students named night owls were assigned to stand guard with flashlights.
Flashlights? Oh no.
They'd shine them on the sleeping students to both ensure that they hadn't escaped and to secure the fact that they're actually asleep. A requirement
and the only reason they're doing it is because they're literally indoctrinated to comply. Good news is the assholes who ran this shithole are either broke, dead, or in prison. Yeah, that's true. Most likely they're probably dead because of how long ago this place was an active operation, but the fact that it was up and running until the early 2000s blows my fucking mind.
As we can recall, was also in the
Holy
list
shit.
of Elan's rules. And if one actually manages to calm their nerves, dozing off into their only time of tranquility, that would allow them to effectively place the cap on a day in the nightmare. That is Elan.
House, wake up.
Oh god, yeah, pretty much.
Do it all over again.
How long would they keep people in this fucking thing? Like, how many months?
Everything else that happened there was something called the Ring. Considered the highest level of punishment, Elan staff could make the call to start the Ring at any time. The structure was set up similar to that of a general meeting, and was typically commenced when school staff
Dude, this is so fucked up!
For a specific student. In the Ring,
you gotta be fucking kidding me!
A bully and is outfitted with a face guard and gloves. Surrounding them are troves
you gotta
of
be
others
fucking kidding me!
And yell obscenities at them.
This is like getting to the point where it's so fucked up. It's almost like a parody of itself. It's so fucked up. You've got to be shitting me.
While this is taking place, specific students will be chosen.
God damn. I wonder how are any of the people that went to it during this time even doing now?
To compete against the bully in numerous
oh my god.
fights until school staff decided that they were sufficiently injured.
That's fucking awful. You've got to be fucking shitting me.
Some bore pre-existing injuries, some were much smaller than their opponent, and some were even pregnant. Even worse, things seemed to be treated like a game, with superiors commentating on the matches like they were on TV. In reality though, this was the furthest thing from TV. This was handcrafted abuse. Elan was meticulous about orchestrating fights for the Ring, too. It's been noted that certain students would regularly be punished for another's actions, effectively engineering anger between them. This was often noticed between big brothers and their subordinates.
You see, this is exactly what I was talking about with the Stanford thing. It's just that then this is when they have the full control over people. Then they just start making them fucking get divisive between each other, pretty much for their own entertainment. Ugh.
As they'd be punished for the actions of their newer counterparts. And once they were angry enough, a Ring...
You gotta be shitting me. This place closed only in 2011. This motherfucking torture dungeon was open all the way until 2011. How the fuck did it survive the obvious lawsuits that had to have fallen it? That long.
The fight would commence.
Fuck. I agree. I agree. I'd rather just go to prison over this. I'd fucking been to jail. I could deal with that. I don't give a fuck. I'd rather deal with being in jail. That's like literally a walk in the fucking park compared to this. I mean, it's a harsh environment. It's not a fun environment, but it's controlled in such a way where this kind of bullshit does not happen.
Students, so
I'd rather live in a series of underground tunnels.
PTSD.
Change the video to we're gonna get depressed tonight. I'll put on something lighter after this. Gonna need to cleanse the palate.
It costs $17,400 to send the average youngster to Elan for 1 year. Even at that price, there are judges, social workers, and parents who consider it a bargain. Elan's defenders claim it has the most consistently effective program for salvaging young people who are too difficult for other facilities to handle.
Salvaging, just the way they talk about people is like so dehumanized.
So many states want to use
fuck?
Elan that there's a waiting list. But on the other hand, one state agency in Massachusetts will no longer send their youngsters here because they object to the way the children are treated. One reason is the use of physical punishment. Joe, you make no bones about it. There is corporal punishment here at Elan. Tell us about it. What are the stages?
It looks like a Jim Belushi character.
Administered by?
Well, it's administered by the kids. First of all, corporal. It's a harsh term. Okay, what it is.
Look at this fucking sleaze fuck. He couldn't. This guy. He could not. He could not stand up on his own two legs under any cross-examination.
Is we have the
under any harsh scrutiny, this motherfucker would fold like the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl.
Okay, which everybody misinterprets. It's not a boxing ring. It's a ring of human people. The bully is introduced as what he is.
It doesn't fucking matter, cocksucker, because you're still getting teenagers to beat the shit out of each other. You stupid, greasy, stupid fuck.
Corner is the bully who's trying to turn this facility into a detention center. Okay, and in this corner is the house champion who's going to show.
Oh, good. This guy died. Good. He died. He died in 2021. He died. I'm glad he died. If I can just fucking get the streamers and confetti out. Unless that's somebody else. This guy was 59. It probably was somebody else, because there's no way this guy's 59. He was way older than that. So now I just...
be done. And that's exactly how it does. And we never allowed the bully to
God damn it. I mean, I'm pretty sure he died anyway, so fuck him, but still.
Bully as well as boys do. I mean, you know, it doesn't, it's...
fucking hell.
You know, we're a equal rights facility. We also...
How the fuck are you equal? Well, I guess you're equal abuse for all.
So use spanking, which is symbolic. Again, it's a last resort. Okay, and it's one resident spanking another resident.
Okay, this guy kicked the bucket in fucking 2001.
And it's done with a ping pong paddle. Okay, and usually a person won't get spanked more than once or twice. But it's a symbolic thing, which is if you're going to act like a baby, you should be treated like a baby.
So you're saying that you should fucking hit an infant with a big-ass piece of wood because they behave wrong. Just break the psychology. Leon, I'm sorry. The death of the guy who ran this horrible cult school.
7th, 1982. A 15-year-old Vermont student named Philip Williams was placed into the ring. He wasn't the largest kid there, but he was known to do what he could to put up a fight. He had grown up in a family of division, regularly witnessing his father physically abuse his mother. With this, there was an anger within him, a sadness that Alon noticed and wanted to exploit.
Oh God, no.
And so, that evening, a ring session commenced with Phil as the bully.
Oh. Gonna probably
there was fight after fight after fight. In the end, it's been reported that he was beaten up so badly that he fell flat on the floor, and it took an entire 20 minutes before an ambulance was called to help him. 20 minutes or so they called the ambulance. They took Phil and they never saw him again. His sister claims, "I thought it was a wonderful place. I thought they were helping my brother."
Yeah, but did they put him in the hospital or did he die?
He came home all right. In a box.
Oh my... Whoa.
Alon's official response was that he had regularly faked headaches. The cause of death? A brain aneurysm. And no charges were ever filed against them.
Duh, bullshit. They had to have a fix. They had to have a fix in the fucking police department for a coroner's report like that. Bullshit. Bullshit. If you get the fuck beaten out of you so bad that you have brain trauma that kills you, there is no way that your body is going to be in any shape that doesn't immediately say that. You're going to be so pulped up. You're going to have internal injuries. Like, if he was on the floor and they were beating the fuck out of him, he's going to have broken ribs. He's going to have fucking internal damage on his organs. Bullshit. Bullshit. They had to have a fix in the cops to get away with this. Now it's starting to get a little clearer how the fuck this operated like this for so long. Because they had a fix in the cops. They had to have. There's no way they didn't. Mosh pit baby version. Mosh pits, people help each other out. Not this shit.
From humiliation to
mosh pits are fun. This is just a fucking beatdown.
Alon's tactics were archaic and inhumane.
Even hate breed pits are better than that.
It markets itself on academia, on helping students get their lives back on track. It's crystal clear that this has never been the motive. What I find interesting, though, is that Alon wasn't even the first to utilize this type of therapy, this attack therapy. In fact, it has its roots in a cult that found its footing all the way back in the mid-1950s.
Really?
That cult is one by the name of Synanon.
What?
County with a warrant to investigate reports of child abuse.
In recent years, Synanon began
Such a lovely country I live in.
calling itself a religion.
He's 52 years old. He's deaf in one ear. He's an egomaniac. But one of the wisest persons that I've ever met in my life.
Was he describing L. Ron Hubbard?
He knows how to get people moving. He creates...
Helion, so basically what this school was a boarding school for supposedly hard to handle and troubled teenagers, and it was like a torture dungeon. They would basically strip you of all your autonomy. They would subject you to sleep deprivation. You would have no privacy in anything, and it would just break you down. And one of the harshest punishments that they had was they would put the kids in that had problems with each other, and they would basically create the division between the kids arbitrarily anyway, and then they'd have them work their problems out by beating the fuck out of each other. Let's see, Warlord 6743. I agree, they definitely had a fix in the police, but yeah, they had to have. They had to have. There's no way that this operated for as long as it did without somebody legally covering shit for them. There's no fucking way in my mind. There's no fucking way in my mind.
Gentlemen, until further...
Can't these morons come up with better name for their cults? Every cult ever has a dumb fuck name. Well, I mean, if one of the proponents of their cult is to strip originality and individuality away from people, I mean, there's kind of, you know, that's where the bad names come from. Okay, so who is this guy? This guy.
He's 52 years old. He's deaf in one ear. He's an egomaniac. But one of the wisest persons that I've ever met in my life. He knows how to get people moving. He creates turbulence.
Gentlemen, until...
Yeah, well, so does a guy who goes into a bar and bangs on it with a machete saying he'll kill the next motherfucker in the room. But it doesn't mean that that's good motivation to get up and move.
No member of the California Department of Corrections is permitted on Synanon property unless he has the express permission of Charles Dieterich, Chairman, Synanon.
Try enforcing that shit. I mean, it was the 50s, but try enforcing that shit, even back then. He basically wrote a stipulation that cops can't come on his property without his written express permission. Fuck you. Cops have egresses and fucking easements that allow them to go pretty much anywhere, so long as they have the warrants to do so. So good luck enforcing that shit.
a man by the name of Charles
They couldn't give a
Sr.
fuck about your stupid fucking written statement.
found the group in Santa Monica, California.
Even in
It
the
was intended to
50s.
be a drug rehabilitation program aimed at delinquents. However, in the years that followed, it appeared to stray from that mission entirely.
Jesus Christ, look at all those skinheads. I wonder what this organization was really about.
The distinguishing form of therapy employed by Synanon was something called the game, which, in today's terms, is more commonly known as attack therapy. The focus of the game was to break down the social construct of an individual's mind by first allowing them to open up about themselves before commencing an aggressive beratement session, much like we discussed earlier with general meetings. The primary goal was to recreate someone's personality and sense of self by completely demolishing everything they know about themselves before rebuilding them as a newer, subjectively better person.
Look at this mobbed up motherfucker. He looks like the kind of guy who would just give you a pair of concrete shoes. Fuck.
It hinged on the brink of legality while being entirely immoral. And, unsurprisingly, by 1991,
Well, there's no way
the
it
cult would
worked.
disband due to criminal convictions that caught up to many of their members.
Yeah, no shit.
The founder also died just 6 years later, leaving behind a dark legacy that, to this day, is known as one of the most dangerous and violent cults that America has ever seen. This is, of course, the abridged history. To be honest with you, I could make an entire hour-long video on the operations and practices of Synanon, but that's a story for another day. If there's one takeaway...
Yeah, as somebody that goes to therapy quite regularly and has been for a while now for my own litany of mental health issues, let me tell you, absolutely fucking none of this shit will ever work to make you a better person. And in my specific case, with what's, you know, problematic with me, it would categorically make everything already wrong with me infinitely worse. This shit does not work. Attack therapy does not work. Dialectical behavioral therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, they work. Okay? Sometimes medication regimens work. All right? Beating the fuck out of everything that makes someone themselves does not.
Wait tonight, though.
This is George Carlin. When you're watching the quiet one, the noisy one will fucking kill. Yeah, it's true.
It's that it unknowingly served as an inspiration and
That's what I was
blueprint for other
referencing, so...
institutions to follow. One of those being Elan, and by utilizing similar practices, they appeared to carry the torch that Synanon was forced to abandon. They knew they had to keep up appearances too, thriving off an immaculate public
I hate that you pointed that out, because now I hear the chicken dance watching this footage, and that's fucked up.
image, spearheaded by the charisma of Joe Ritchie. Before the age of the internet, admittedly this was easier to do. Television documentaries like NBC's For the Child's Own Good were seemingly the only inside look that the public was allowed to gain. However, even they failed to convey the true extent of what happened there. The hush-hush foundation that Elan was built upon initially seemed to be unbreakable. However, due to a rise in public attention that would soon find its way there, it was becoming increasingly apparent that the cracks beneath that very foundation were merely beginning to form.
Yeah, these kind of organizations, they always have to have fixes in the cops to me. Really do. It's the only way they survive for so long. Just operating right in the eye of the public. You know, because there's no oversight or accountability for whatever court systems handle these things, as far as I can tell. There can't be. You know, the family court system is just, it's been long known for its lack of accountability, for its lack of any oversight. So whenever they have court orders for juveniles to go to facilities like this, it's not like the court has any idea or even a fucking care in the world that this is where they're sending them. It's just so long as the case is off the docket, you know, out of sight, out of mind, pretty much.
Through the late 70s and into the early 80s, reports of the true nature of Elan began to spread by word of mouth from former students. Authorities in Maine reportedly visited the school upwards of 12 times to investigate, however returned with absolutely nothing to show for it.
Helion Shark, that's some shit made up by dudes who think men are too pussified and need to have the shit beaten out of them so they can become men. Typical abuse builds character shit. Yeah, and I got to admit, I got a lot of that when I was young. There was a lot of that kind of mentality in my household, and it did me no good. It did me no good. You know, you'd like to think it would motivate somebody to kick their own ass into shape, and it just makes you a terrible person instead.
Frustratingly, the operation that Joe Ritchie was running was completely and entirely legal. There were no laws in place for facilities like this, so it was allowed to remain in operation without issue. As we touched on, the media was the primary in for outsiders at Elan. However, even they failed to communicate the extent of their operations. While they showed select parts of it, unfortunately Joe Ritchie was given enough airtime to convince the public and the news crew that it was nothing more than their treatment taking place. By dehumanizing the students, emphasizing their delinquencies on national television, he was able to use this notoriety to his advantage, ultimately swaying the public opinion into believing that what he was doing was entirely good.
Well, it's probably because he never got interviewed by anybody that could put him under real scrutiny. I mean, if it's just because the fact that it was buried so much, nobody even knew to ask the questions, then yeah, that's one thing, but it's entirely something else if he's dealing with an interviewer that's well aware of what goes on here. I mean, believe me, 5 minutes and me hammering this motherfucker, you know, it's just watching somebody fold like that, the subterfuge would be up.
On top of the growing number of alumni, though, came an increase in escapees, which only furthered Elan's unwanted infamy.
Trial by combat only works if you're an Aztec.
3 students, a 16-year-old unidentified individual, a 15-year-old Brad Glickman, and a 17-year-old Don Birnbaum would all escape successfully, however would meet wildly differing fates.
Glad they got out.
For the 16-year-old, it's been reported that he ran over 15 miles through the wilderness in the middle of the night.
Fuck.
He was eventually caught by an officer, Max Ashburn, and after hearing the boy's story and observing his physical condition, he helped him return home. For Brad Glickman, he was shot. In 1990, after escaping Elan's search parties, he made his way to a house in a small town. Authorities believed that he had a connection to the girl that lived there. However, the homeowner opened fire, ultimately killing him.
Why, though? I mean, did he think he was just trying to break in? That's so random. I mean, unless the person didn't know who he was and then misidentified and then opened fire thinking that he was breaking into the house, then that, you know, that's horrible. But that you can sort of understand that. If not, that's so weird. Just like, boom, dead, fuck.
The clutches of Elan, eventually finding a trucker named James Cruz, who was willing to take her home. A few hours down the road, though, Birnbaum would find that Cruz's true intentions weren't quite so virtuous.
Oh, no.
As it turned out, he sexually assaulted her on the side of the highway before strangling and abandoning her body between routes 26 and 550 in Pennsylvania. She was discovered by another motorist with a yellow rope tied around her neck and without clothes from the waist down.
Fucking
From
Christ.
her corpse were tire tracks resembling that of a semi-trailer. Since Birnbaum had crossed state lines, an FBI investigation was commenced for her.
You're federally fucked.
With numerous similar cases that have happened in the area, the truck belonging to James Cruz was deemed as the culprit. Upon catching up to him and searching his vehicle, authorities were able to find but a single blonde hair that belonged to Birnbaum, effectively leading to his arrest. Much to the school's displeasure, these cases...
Imagine escaping this fucking hellhole and then you get fucking goddamn murdered on the roads. Jesus fucking...
successfully gained ample attention. Joe Ritchie resultingly paid off numerous judges and journalists in hopes of drowning out the negative press.
I figured.
However, outsiders were beginning to catch on that these students were running for a reason. But why?
Yeah, we're definitely getting a palate cleanser after this one. Fuck me. Ah! Fuck. Yeah, that guy was federally fucked. Easily got life.
On the night of October 30th, 1975, a 15-year-old girl named Martha Moxley was out with her friends participating in what they call mischief night.
What?
This typically involved TPing houses, ding-dong ditching, typical teenager antics.
Mischief night. That sounds like something the Goonies would come up
Later
with.
that night,
I love it.
Moxley found a liking to a Thomas Skakel, eventually kissing him before the pair decided to venture off. To the other friends in their group, seeing Moxley fall over the Skakel's backyard fence with Thomas was the very last time that they would ever see her alive.
What?
The next morning, the Moxley family awakens as usual. They go about their morning routine, however notice that Martha is missing. Upon searching the house for her, they notice a body lying by the tree out in the backyard. They approach it and discover a grim scene. Martha is lying, lifeless with her pants down. Her body appears to have been visibly
Like a
beaten.
fucking
A
mansion.
few feet away from the body, broken remnants of a 6-iron golf club. This club was eventually traced back to the Skakel family. Autopsy reports claimed that she was bludgeoned and stabbed to death, all by that 6-iron. And since Thomas Skakel was the last person she was spotted with that night, he was the prime suspect in her murder. Due to a lack of sufficient evidence, however, he, among the other suspects, were eventually absolved. And as a result, the Moxley case, frustratingly, went cold. Three years later. Thomas's 18-year-old brother named Michael
You know, it's the
Skakel was
70s when
arrested
somebody
for drunk
who's in his
driving.
20s looks like he's in his
His
late
punishment?
40s.
Admission to a law. While there,
People aged pretty
Skakel was
poorly
known to
back
be
then.
problematic and outspoken.